Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Down Lap presented by Midwest Motorsports. I'm Anthony Castor, driver of the 8 car in the Cup Series and recently the 8 car in the Road Series, along with Justin Thaler, driver of the 2 and the Oval Series and Road Series. Normally, we are joined with our voice of Midwest Motorsports co-host James Johnson, but unfortunately he can't make it tonight, so you guys get me and Justin. So we're going to start off this week's episode with a little bit of the stuff that happened over the weekend with real racing. Since we don't have Oval Series stuff to cover, apart from the polls we want to touch on real quick, we're probably going to go a little bit more in depth in the real life racing aspect of the weekend, and then we'll touch on our road stuff and wrap it up for the week. So I'll go first. Just over the weekend, I want to touch on the Xfinity racing with Connor Zilich. I believe that was his first Xfinity start. I watched his ARCA race at Watkins Glen last year, and he was putting it to Jesse Love. So I knew he was going to be a good racer, but I didn't think he'd come out and win his first race. And I mean, he was pretty dominant in that race too. I don't know, Justin, if you got to watch any of the Xfinity race, but I believe he had like a 10-second gap at the first stage between him and second place. So
Yeah, I didn't. I don't remember where I started. It might have been a little later, at the end of stage 2 or earlier stage 3. But I mean, the kid's rapid, right? Like, I mean, he put it on pole at Coda and Truck earlier this year. He's definitely talented, and I think that with a little more experience, that he could definitely be one of the young stars in the up and coming ranks.
oh yeah. So I don't know if you've seen the news over the last week, but there was a little bit of the uh, driver carousel going on in the Xfinity series. So um, I don't know how it happened, but Sheldon Creed had that deal with Gibbs, and now he's going over to Stewart Haas Racing for the Xfinity series. And it would just shock me because Sheldon Creed's only been there. This is his first year with Gibbs, and they're already shipping him over there. So I think contractually they're like, hey, if he doesn't win a race, we're just going to move him. And then JRM is moving. Sam Mayer announced that he's leaving JRM to also go to Storehouse Racing. And I believe Brandon Jones is going back to Joe Gibbs Racing because he came from Joe Gibbs probably 2 years ago, but he hasn't really done much at JRM. So that opens up 2 spots for JRM, and one of them just got filled. The 88 car, I believe Connor Zilich is driving that next season full time. And a lot of the speculation is that they're also going to bring Quaffle in to drive the 9 or 1, or they're going to move the drivers around and give them the 8. So JRM's looking to have a pretty stacked team next year. I mean, they already had pretty good drivers with Mayer and Allgaier. I mean, they're at least going to win a couple races, but this gives them a road guy that can run these road races really, really well in Zillish. And Quapple, he's been up towards the front in almost all the races he's ran part time for JRM on the oval side. So it's going to be a strong stable for JRM. I believe it's going to be them and Joe Gibbs going back and forth at it. So we'll see, and maybe that move over to Stuart Haas for Creed will actually give him a win. I mean, at some point you got to start to feel bad for the guy running in second place. Oh man, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. That dude. You just start to feel bad for him. I mean, it's just nonstop. There's always something that gets him. So best of luck to the guys moving around in the Xfinity series, and hopefully everybody gets some success next season with it, with those moves.
Where was it? Zilich ran a truck race, I believe. I want to say it was maybe like Richmond earlier this year. Um, he was definitely overdriving, using, he wasn't managing his tires by any means, but um, he did show speed and control of that truck. So I think that it's teachable, right? Manage your tires. Um, don't overheat them and do all that. So I think that he definitely has a future as well in learning and crafting his abilities on the ovals as well. So
Yeah, well, I think the other positive to this, if they can get uh, Carson Quaffle into a car, I believe they were saying something about possibly the sponsorship is the one holdup right now. But if they can get Carson into a car, I think those two are going to benefit each other a lot. I mean, Carson, he can probably learn some good things off of Zilish and the road racing side, but I think Zilish will learn a lot from Carson on the oval side. And those two being younger guys, I could see them working together and kind of refining both of their crafts. So it'll be interesting to see the progress there. Who knows? Maybe they just butt heads a lot and it doesn't work out. But I think the two guys will help each other out and really put on some good shows next season. Um, but Connor Zilish ended up winning the Xfinity race. SVG, I believe, brought in second place, if I remember correctly. And
yeah, he definitely finished second.
yeah, and then he was egging on Connor to try and throw his hand into the cup race. He said, if I was him, I'd be trying to get into the cup race and see how far you can go with that. So, then Sunday was the Cup Series race at Watkins Glen. A lot of action in that race. Between playoff drivers getting caught up in that first lap wreck, LaJoy sending it into the bus stop and absolutely over driving through that and taking out Kyle Busch, causing that chain reaction that put Denny Hamlin into the wall. Stenhouse. Yeah.
Blaney was junk. Denny. Well,
Yeah.
Blaney was junk.
Well, I want to touch on Blaney here in a minute, but Blaney got caught up in it. It didn't look bad. Like it looked like he just
No,
barely caught the quarter panel on Keselowski's ride. Blaney got caught in it. Stenhouse, did you see that Stenhouse hit, man?
I didn't actually. Surprisingly, I missed it. And I watched the whole race.
Dude, Stenhouse coming through the bus stop. I think he was trying to avoid that pile up, and he hit the wall that basically the guardrail so hard it knocked the camera off of the wall. Like you see the camera just flying through the air. That's how hard he hit that thing.
Huh, I don't know
So
how I missed that.
yeah, they were showing it in the replays, and they just show the camera flying. So Stenhouse took out that wall. The one person who made it out of it pretty well, Christopher Bell, I think he just spun. He didn't really collect anything, but he was basically a non-factor afterwards. So, I see your dad in here talking about NASCAR and Blaney, and that's exactly where I want to head to and kind of get your opinion on this. And anybody in the chat, if you guys want to throw this in there, you can. But Blaney was absolutely just PO'd at NASCAR for the fact that, he got towed back
Yep.
and they went straight to the garage, which would make it to where he can't repair the car. They don't even give him a chance to assess the car and see if they get back on the track. It is a rule that if you get towed back to the garage, you can't start. Blaney's whole point on this is they should have dropped him at
At
his
pit
pit
lane.
box. Yeah, at his
Yeah.
pit box on pit road, so they could at least assess the car and see if they could fix it within the time limits of the damaged vehicle policy. Uh, he brought up the point that if you get flat tires, you're getting towed back to your pit box. How is this any different? You should be able to drop us at the pit box. We can assess it, and if we need to, push it into the garage. End the day there.
Yeah, let the team make the decision whether
Exactly.
it's unrunnable, right?
Yeah. His words were basically, "Whose decision is it to tell us that our car is beyond being able to be fixed within that time? They don't even know what's wrong with it." So I agree with Blaney. I mean, NASCAR really needs to look into their rules and get that kind of figured out with the if you're getting towed back with tires. I mean, even if you're getting towed back and it doesn't, like, your car doesn't look like the side of it's like ripped off, or your wheel isn't like cocked sideways because you snapped one of the I guess you can't even say that anymore. It used to be those toe links, but Hamlin's crew was knocking those out in 3 minutes. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, in all honesty, these guys should have a chance to look at these vehicles on pit road. I mean, you're at Watkins Glen. The pace lap around there is at least 2 minutes. So you're doing at least 3 laps. That gives you yeah, 6 minutes of pace time. So these guys can at least get in there, pop the hood, look, and then push it off if they need to shortly after the group goes green. So I agree with Blaney. That's something that NASCAR really needs to refine and do a better job of letting the crews, do their job, look at the vehicle, repair it as needed. It kind of feels like NASCAR is taking that away from the crews, and we're hearing this a lot with NASCAR anymore, where they're taking the car out of the crew's hands, where they can't really make any changes to the car. They're taking it to where you can't uh, improve the car really with parts or anything. So this is just one of those other things where NASCAR is saying, "Hey, your car is beyond repair. We're taking you straight to the garage without you looking at it." So it doesn't help the narrative any over the last couple months or years with the change to the new car, but they really need to take a step back, look and be like, okay, let's put this back in the pit crew's hands. They can
I
say,
mean,
okay, it's broke.
what was the overall, I guess, reasoning that Blaney couldn't drive back?
Well, he was driving straight. So, according to what your dad's saying here, it looks like the steering shaft broke. Ultimately, ultimately, I don't think they're getting that fixed in the, what is it, 15 minutes they get with the playoffs going. I
Yeah.
think they get 15 minutes now. Um, but again, it could have been something smaller. Well, we don't know. Nobody knows until they actually get underneath it and look, or look under the hood. So I think forfeiting that option for the team to actually look at it and try to fix it is a bad direction to go in.
I agree. Now, if if it's something like, a major safety concern, obviously, or um, a danger to other drivers on track, I could see NASCAR giving them the flag, black flag for bringing the car in to have it worked on. But for NASCAR just to say you're done, you're out, nobody
Yeah,
really knows the severity of the damage or root cause. I think is definitely way too far. I mean,
yeah,
look, was it 2 years ago, Bristol? I mean, he was junked, and he was like 40 laps down by the end of that, and he was scraping, the floor, every turn. He was so far off. I mean, he made minimum speed,
hmm,
but he was so far off pace. It's like, you're gonna let that happen at a short track. Like, are you just trying to induce the drama and like hope that something bigger happens, because of that? But at a road course, like you said, that's so spread out, like Watkins Glen. I mean, I find that really
yeah,
asinine on NASCAR's, stance or reasoning position.
yeah. And from what I gathered, the whole reasoning for the DVP clock was they didn't want people underneath. Their words were, they didn't want the pit crew underneath the car getting hot fluids on them, cutting in the metal, and they just don't want them working underneath of that for safety reasons. But at least let them
Okay.
diagnose the vehicle and see, like, okay, we can fix this in less than 10 minutes, or let
Well,
them use that clock in the garage.
what's the difference in the reasoning of hot fluids and everything else? I mean, hell, they race at super speedways.
Yeah, I don't know,
I
man.
mean, look at the heat generated off of Talladega, the middle of. whatever day, the track temps and the air temp and the cars,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a sorry excuse for
it
sure.
is. It is, but I mean, it's their circus. They're spectators. So again, we'll see what comes of it. I'm sure today and tomorrow, if it hasn't already happened, uh, they'll be on Sirius XM explaining their reasons on why they did it. But we'll talk about the rest of the race real quick. There were a couple stack ups. It seemed like mostly going down in through the S's out of turn one and up through the bus stops where the majority of the accidents were happening at. Just people trying to go 2, 3 wide and down into 1, 4 wide. I've seen and try to just carry that up through the S's, which doesn't happen. After that, everything kind of calmed down. I think there were a couple stage flippers and one that were actually able to work it out, but it just seemed like once you got stuck back in the end of the pack, 15th, 20th place, you were just there. Like it was a slog to try and pass and try to get around people. Haven't heard any reasons why, if the field's just that close, tight, and competitive, or if it was something with the cars just not wanting to pass like they do out on the intermediate tracks. But
Before you get any further, though, how
yeah.
cool was that camera that was on the steel cabling at the bus stop?
Oh yeah, that was actually pretty sweet. See those guys
That
go
was
through there
awesome. And like how
side by
quick the
side.
camera was able to move with it.
Yeah, that was actually pretty sweet to see. Um, Kind of wish they would bring some more innovative things like that to other tracks, but I get it. I mean, it's a circle. You really can't do it many other places.
The drone cams are cool when
Yeah.
they used to do those.
Yep. Yep. And it's a quick sidetrack here, but I feel like one of the cooler shots was when Dale Jr. was at Pocono last year with NBC, and they had the camera over the flag stand showing all those cars coming down the front stretch. Um, that's cool. I mean, just give us those shots where we can actually see like overhead on what's happening. But uh, end of the race, we'll touch that real quick. It looked like SVG was going to win it. I mean,
Wait, at which end of the race, though?
yeah. Sorry, there was what 2 or 3 green white checkers. It felt like they.
Yeah,
I mean, much like the Xfinity race, two or three green white checkers, or I think they had 2 with the
yeah.
possibility of 3. Cup, same thing. I mean, these guys just. It seems like when it comes to the end of the race, these guys just throw their cars down in there. And if it's a caution, it's just another re-rack and try it again. The only person that's really affected by it is the leader. They're seeing a lot of pushback on this. The green white checkers. I mean, it used to be something where it happened once, maybe twice, but now it's starting to affect. It seems like almost 75% of the races this season. It feels like if somebody that wants to do numbers out there wants to give me a percentage, you can, but it feels like at least 75% of the races this season have been decided by uh, we'll say last lap caution, last couple lap caution to send it into overtime. So, in all honesty, I'm starting to get to the point where it's just it feels like it's more drama than what needs to be in there. Um,
I mean, it's getting a little out of hand, right? You just start junking vehicles left and right, and
exactly. And
not
again, the only
showing any respect to the fellow competitors. But
oh yeah, yep, yep. So after a couple restarts, SVG is able to go through, take the lead by kind of rushing Pusher in the quarter panel down into 1. Gave him a little bit of a love tap there, and Chris Buescher repaid it in the following lap in the bus stop. Looked like SVG got a little loose, and he was able to get in there, kind of give him a little push. And after that, that was the end of it. SVG put on a good push to try and catch back up to him, but got loose going into the final 2 corners. Man, it looked like he was drifting that thing, but good for Buescher. It's good to see him get a win. He was so close throughout the season. It's unfortunate it wasn't during the regular season. I mean, he would have been in the playoffs, but it's always good to get a win and kind of raise the spirit and morale of that team. So uh, good win for them. One interview at the end, Martin Truex uh, said it best, along with all the green white checkers and overtimes that are happening. These guys are professionals. I mean, they're supposed to be able to go down in here and drive like professional race car drivers.
Yeah.
So he's tired of it. Maybe we'll see some changes. Maybe we won't. Hopefully, these guys can look at it and listen and see that Martin Truex Jr. is one of those, veteran drivers who knows what he's talking about, and they just need to clean it up. So, uh, we'll touch Formula One real quick, man. It's or how do you say that? As
Azerbaijan
oh, there it is. Yep,
or the streets of Baku.
that's better. The streets of Baku. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot easier.
Drama started on Saturday.
Oh man, it's getting close in F1, man. Between
Uh,
everything, points and the constructor, the teams. Now I feel like it's just starting to ratchet up everybody's emotions and drive to try and do better since Red Bull isn't dominating every week. To see that,
it,
hey, Red Bull isn't this titan like other teams. I mean, McLaren's starting to kind of take on a little bit of that titan role, but other teams are seeing like, hey, we can also do this. So, do you want to touch on any of the Saturday stuff that happened, man?
yep. So I guess the big story. Excuse me. Oh, a couple big stories, I guess. So Q1, Ocon has an issue in the final sector of the track. Baku is a street circuit. There's a couple twists. Some decent, I guess, moderate to high speed corners coming to the what you call the front stretch. And Lando North is on his flyer lap. He definitely needed to improve to make it into Q2. And for, I mean, just a minuscule of a second, you can see the a blip of the I guess the flag board. I forget the technical term of what they call it, but you can see it flash yellow, and Lando says he saw a yellow indicator on his dash. You don't know F1 cars, the blue flags, yellow flags, things like that. They have those indicators on their wheels as well, depending on where they're at on track. So he lifts, coming out of one of those final corners and basically can't, regain any of that time, and he gets knocked out. So Sunday for the race, he's starting back in 15th. Ollie Behrman filling in for Kevin Magnussen at Haas. Ollie Behrman will have one of those Haas seats next season. He filled in for Ferrari last. I don't remember if it was last. I think it was last year at a street circuit. I forget exactly which one. One of the newer ones. But he filled in, made it into Q2. Franco Colapinto, who is, I guess, the fill-in driver for since Logan Sargent has sadly departed the sport of F1. He made it in Q2. So some of these younger guys who, were kind of just like brought in just to basically fill the seat, bring the car home, or showing that they were actually somewhat competitive, which was cool. But on to Q3, pole position, not Max Verstappen, not Checo, but Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari. And the biggest thing is Max was down, I believe, in fifth or sixth, and Checo was, I believe, started P3 or 4, one of the two. I don't remember quite the lineup, but Oscar Piastri was up there in the McLaren as well. So move on to race day. Pretty much status quo, not a whole too lot going on. Charles kind of was running away from it. Oscar Piastri in second was keeping him honest. Nothing really happened to like the pit cycle, so a couple cars this couple cars seem to be able to run the mediums longer, extend their stint, and go onto the hard compound. Lando extended his quite a bit, was able to manage getting through the field. He had a lot of clean air, especially, they pit him at a really good time, so he got some clean air. But coming down, Oscar's gaining and gaining on Leclerc, and just classic late break move, very controlled, very it was a classic racecraft move down into turn one for the lead, and then it was just managing his pace and his gap. Further on, so Leclerc's down in second, and then Checo and Carlos Sainz were eking their way forwards. Max kind of struggled most of the race. He ended up P5. Lando drove it to P4, but coming into turn one, there was a really interesting move. Charles Leclerc and Checo were kind of battling, and it allowed the door to kind of open for Carlos. So Carlos went to the outside into turn one. Charles was able to keep the position, and it kind of opened the door and let Checo get a little closer. And once that happened, pretty controversial. I don't really know who's at fault. I think it's kind of equal responsibility, but huge wreck at the end puts Carlos and Checo out of the race. So what could have been, a podium for Checo turned into a nothing burger at the end of the race. But Oscar Piastri come home with the win. So good points for McLaren to tighten their gap to the constructors and Red Bull. Leclerc P2, and was it George Russell P3, right? I believe George Russell and Mercedes brought it home.
Yeah.
For P3.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. Yeah, with those two taking themselves out.
So definitely not drama free. A couple of retirements. I think Stroll and Yuki both had issues. Stroll likely more talent related.
Yeah, who did Yuki end up having kind of run over him to cause his?
I don't remember, because he even had a decent qualifying. I know he definitely got into Q2, I believe, but I don't really remember the whole Yuki thing. That was kind of early. I was up early watching that race live.
Yeah, I think that was like lap one that happened. I think it was lap one, yeah.
But yeah, drama, no short of drama. I think the street circuits are interesting. No red flags, no safety cars or anything like that. But good race, I think, entertainment wise. Unless you're, a Max who kind of struggled all day with the car, or a Leclerc fan.
Yeah. Interesting again to see how fast Red Bull can make changes to that car and either drop it off a cliff or if they can bring it back to where it contends with McLaren. But it does seem that McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, everybody's closed that gap, man. So it's going to be a tight race, I believe, down to the drivers' championship.
I don't know. I mean, Lando's still the closest, but he hasn't been able to capitalize on any of the misfortunes from Max as of late. So I think he's buried way too far back. He's like 60 some points. I mean, he gained I think 1 point on him yesterday. So that's definitely not enough to get anything out of him or nothing. So
yeah, do you feel that if I guess Red Bull keeps it their max qualifying at 6, running around between 6th and 4th place, and Lando can run consistently first or second. You think they close that?
I mean, Lando's going to have to win everything from now on, get every fastest lap, and Max is literally going to have to probably finish outside of the points in a high majority of some of these races. I think it's out of reach. He might be able to reel him in more, maybe, but I don't think there's enough opportunity left for him. I mean, Monza should have been the one, if everything worked out for Lando, but there was the controversy of the move from Oscar and the second chicane there. So I think it's outside of reach. I think it's uncomfortable for Max moving, but I don't think he's really got too much to worry about. I think it's still highly his to lose. But they might not. But Red Bull may not be able to hang on to the constructors. So
yeah, and I mean, is it next year? Next season they bring in the new. Is it the power unit that's changing?
I don't remember if it's next season for the power unit or it's 2026 for power and aero regs. I know aero regs for sure 26, but I can't remember about when the regulations for the changing of the power unit are just yet.
Yeah. Well,
but in other news, if anybody hasn't been following, Adrian Newey, basically the guy credited with many teams championship winning car designs, will be joining Aston Martin next season. So he's leaving Red Bull, and if history repeats itself, anywhere that Newey left basically does not prosper as they did when he was there. So Lawrence Stroll's got that money. Newey will be getting a stake of Aston Martin, which is something he's always kind of been after, was having a stake in a team within the sport. So could be a lethal pairing. Adrian Newey, obviously credited with a lot of car designs in the F1 world, as well as Honda power units over at Aston Martin. So could be interesting, and could that entice Max to go there if they're able to put together a car somewhat like the dominant Red Bulls of earlier this year, last year. Could Max be putting on a green uniform versus his dark blue and yellow and red?
I think Toto's hoping it's the other green uniform.
I don't know. I don't know.
All right. So that's going to wrap up our This Week in Motorsports segment. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to watch the IndyCar race, so I can't really speak to that one. And with James not being here, that guy watches all sorts of the motorsports. So we'll skip IndyCar for the week, and with James back next week, he can catch you guys up on everything happening there. So without much further ado, we will move on to the Road Series portion of our show. Seeing as how the Oval Series is off, I'm going to just touch on a couple things after our Road Series rundown regarding the Oval Series, and then we'll wrap the podcast. So, the Road Series was off in Nürburgring. It was not the full layout of the track. It was the Grand. How do you say it, Jay? Grand Prix.
Nürburgring Grand Prix track.
There it is. Yep. There. I knew there was another part to it. GT4 series went there. It was an interesting race. Started off in the waning hours of the evening, so the sun was up just a little bit during qualifying and during the green flag of the race, and it wasn't that long into it, and it felt like everybody had their flashlights out, shining it out shining it out in front of them, man. If you got out of the pack, you couldn't see too much, and I think that played a little bit in the race. So, Jay, I know you were running up towards the front for some of the race. How'd that treat you up there, man?
It was really great. When you were around traffic, because as you said, it got dark very quickly when you weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So halfway, through the halfway mark, you jump in the pits and hit your pit cycle, and you kind of come out, and it's like, wait, what the hell happened, right? But it was fun. I had really, really, really fun battles there for a while. Gotta find. I think it was Jesse Coffee, maybe. I don't. It wasn't Jesse. I forget. I apologize. I'm gonna have to look back there to see who I was battling with.
It
But
was
I
coffee.
was it Coffee? I couldn't
Yeah, it was
remember.
coffee.
I had some awesome battles with you, Jesse. That was a lot of fun. You know, I came out. I went through the pits. He stayed out, and as I came in through the front stretch, he was coming out of the pits, so I had to work to get back to him, and it was through multiple points of that race. Him and I were fighting hard, but just a great track. It was really neat, to see the kind of started at dusk time and it goes into the night and see how it finishes. I think I ended up with the most positions gained. It was hard to get that, but ended up with most positions gained. But I think I went like 44, 45 minutes without a single off track, and then I ended up getting a 1X. So I was like, oh, that's a bummer. Those bonus points would have been nice as well, but um, yeah, for the most part, it was a clean race. There's a lot of battles trying to stay with the pace of the faster guys in front of me and hang with them. But I think I ran pretty consistent from my point in. But I mean, how'd it feel for you, man? First time, kind of really getting into the back of road racing.
Well, yeah. For anybody that hasn't been in the league since the dawn of Midwest Motorsports, I just strictly ran ovals for the longest time, and then JT talked me into jumping in. Did we run GT3s at one point in time on the roadside?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay. So originally I started in GT3s, and then did we go to TCRs after that, or was that? Yeah, we
Yep,
went
we
to
went
TCRs.
TCR. Yep.
Okay, and I ran in TCRs, and then F3 I was kind of hit and miss. The open wheel concept for me, just having to kind of work the throttle through the corners and such, it just never meshed with me. Like I couldn't get the whole downforce factor down going through the corners and such. It just didn't feel like a car I could drive. So I kind of waned off of that and with work and stuff. Now I have some free time. I hop back into it. Let me say, you road guys are quick. um, it's fun, but also kind of nerve wracking to think you're going down into a corner fast and then see a set of headlights going through that corner 3 times faster than what you're doing it. So, but it wasn't bad. I would say, I started from the pits. I had some mechanical issues with my headset, and I didn't want to put myself down to turn one and wreck somebody. So started from the pits and kind of just drove through what I could, caught some people around my skill level and raced around them for most of the race, and uh, everybody was courteous. It was nice to see, and again, you faster guys were at least patient with me, and so I appreciate it. But it's a nice track. I'll give it that. It's a good track to come into and kind of get my feet wet. I had a couple battles back there with Norm. Uh,
Heard you guys giggling.
oh man, if Norm's listening to this, you and I need to have a conversation. I don't know if you were throwing some blocks or if I was putting my nose where it didn't need to be, but it was fun. I appreciate it. I kind of felt like he was just trying to make my beginning road racing season just a little bit tougher on me. But no, it was good. It was good. Felt great to be back in the Porsche, man. Just I feel like that thing takes corners smooth like butter. But looking forward to the next race after. That's what is that?
Misano.
Misano. We have off week and then Misano. So just to highlight some of the racing that happened, I'm going to pull up the standings here, but it looked like Walker towards the end had some pit issues with his crew chief telling him like he was good to go, but he wasn't. I got to shut that thing off. I think it almost set me up once.
Really? I've never had
Oh,
an
yeah.
issue with mine.
Yeah, well, you use actual crew chief, don't you?
Yes.
I use the iRacing one. So Chase Fincher ended up winning the race on the Pro Series side. That guy's quick. I'll give him that. That guy's quick. I was watching some of his laps, and I'm like, yeah, there ain't no way I'm even coming close to this guy's pace. Which coming into it, you should kind of know that. But Brian Coxon pulled it out in second, Jason Phillips third, Michael Odell fourth, and Jack Lucas fifth. So one of the battles I actually got to spectate was Michael Odell and Jack Lucas. And those two fought all the way down to the last corner for fourth place. And it was some great racing. I believe Odell was on the edge with the incident points. And I commend both those drivers for just racing as clean as they did and seeing how hard they were able to go at it. One of the better battles. So, Justin, you got sixth place.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I moved up
there.
quite a bit. I was a little upset with my qualifying because I think I was down like in like 14th or something. So I was able to work my way up, which was that's always a confidence booster.
Yeah, that's that's top 10 finish there, man. Robert Snar there with seventh, Jesse Coffey eighth. So he must have dropped the position when you guys were battling.
Well, I mean, we were going for it, and I think a result of us battling, kind of he got shuffled back towards
Yep.
Robert, but Robert was raced with us, I think, in our first season of our GT3 and a little bit, I think, in F3. So he found his way back after quite a few seasons off. So it's cool to have him back. I always enjoyed racing against Robert.
Yeah. Walker got a ninth place finish there, and CJ Barzak with the top 10. Just to highlight the AM drivers, it looks like Ian Bakaitis led the AM drivers in finishes. Nick Aslin second. I believe those two battled down to the wire as well. And then, oh hey, that's cool. Ronald Cavalides would have been third for the AM drivers. Aaron Mitchell fourth, and I round out the top five in the top finishing AM drivers.
Hey man, good job.
Heck yeah, I just noticed that. Some drivers had a rough night. Like I said, whenever the sun went down and the lights came on, some of the lights weren't coming on, so it was tough treading for some guys, but everybody kind of pulled through and finished the best they could. So on to Masano, and we'll see how everything turns out there. So the standings are up on the screen for anybody watching. For anybody that's not watching, Brian Coxon leads the pro standings. Michael Odell's 200 points behind him in second. Chase Fincher is about 600 and looks like about 605 points behind him. In third, and Jason Phillips is about 900 points behind in fourth. Justin, you're about 900 points. Well, yeah, we're about 900 points behind in fifth, but I was about to say you're only 25 points behind fourth, Jason Phillips.
Oh,
yeah, 57.75. Jason Phillips 57.50. So And John Daniels is also close there in sixth, 57.25. So, I mean, from fourth to seventh place is only 100 points, 150 points separation. So there could be a little bit of a shakeup there after Misano.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like our road, the competition is so close. Like no matter where you are in the field, there's always a battle. Um, the skill levels and although they're the BOP of the GT4s is really good. There still are manufacturers that you can tell they strive at this style of track, or maybe they're weaker here, so it's interesting to see how I guess that plays out. But I mean, credit where credit is due. A lot of our drivers, they're putting maybe a car that shouldn't be as strong as it is at a certain track. They're still putting them up there, so I think that's a credit to the talent of a lot of our members. And everybody's really clean, respectable. I know there was a really bad issue with um, Travis Farrow and Odell at the Nürburgring due to some, I guess, technical difficulties on one of the drivers' ends. I won't single out who it was, but it was a complete accident, and the driver on the receiving end knew that, and just you shrug it off. You kind of just go on about your day, and there's good understanding from each party, and no harm, no foul, and just a good group of guys. Couldn't be happier with that.
Yeah. Again, I mean, for Odell to get caught up in that accident and still be able to drive back to a fourth place finish, the guy's quick. The guy's
For
quick,
sure.
and it's a testament to kind of just sticking through the race and not just throwing it in when something happens. Sticking through the race, persevere, and finish it out. So, AM standings. I'll touch on the top five here real quick. Ronald Cavalides is 34.70 in first place. Nick Asselin 22.75 in second. So just right about 1,200 points out. Nicholas Kalaguru is 21.50 in third place, and Kevin Bridges 20.75 in fourth place. Brian Sarton 19.70 in fifth place. So got a little bit of a battle there between the second, third, and fourth position. I mean, Brian Sarton and Rick Brunden in sixth could also easily get into that, but we'll have to see how everything at Misano goes, and if there's a shakeup in both the Pro and AM standings. I'm thinking we'll see something change on the points, but we'll run it and see what happens.
Yeah, I didn't mention it. I was going to, but when we had Nicholas Aslan on for the championship episode for winning trucks, he kind of acted like he wasn't any good at road course racing. Well, he's doing pretty damn good in our in our Tuesday nights. So don't be so humble, Nick. You got the talent, you got the ability.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell, he even
Um,
won one earlier.
yeah. So we'll have to have him back on at some point just to kind of bust him on that. But there was one thing I want to touch on here before we close out the podcast here tonight, and it's the Oval Series polls. If you guys haven't
Mm-hmm.
had a chance, there's a poll in the announcement tab JT put up for some questions regarding our season 8 Oval side. So if you guys go in there, just answer the 3 questions. A lot of it has to do with rules. There's some scheduling in there. We're introducing the a crown jewel concept where we run the smaller Coke 600. We run it at basically 75%. Well, we ran it close to 75%. So the Charlotte race is getting longer, guys. It's going up to 75%, full 75% full length, and your options for the second 75% race are any of the other 3 real life Crown Jewel races. So we have Darlington up, we have Indy up to kind of replicate the Indy 500, and we have Daytona up to replicate the Daytona 500. However, it's going to be a night race because who doesn't like night Daytona? So if you guys could just go in there and vote on those things. There's also an international series race. I implore you to be a little open-minded going into it. There are a couple tracks on there that don't look like it's something that car can run on, but trust me when I say that car can run on any of those tracks. So if you trust us in that process, just vote with whatever you want to try and run. If you're a road course guy and you see Suzuka in there, click on it. We're gonna have a good running car for it, and it's gonna put down some good fun laps if you like running the road courses. That goes for any of those courses in there. So again, if you guys can, go ahead and vote. I think we're leaving that for about a week, right, JT?
Yeah, about a week, and the signups as well. They're live, guys. So we really hope everybody continues to want to participate with us before we open the registration up to anybody else. Make sure you snag your numbers if you know there's a number you want. Anybody who's been with us long enough already knows, kind of how we do this. So just make sure you see that. That's available for everybody. If you're a road guy and you've kind of wanted to get involved in oval, it's not as easy as you think if you're either naive or don't really have the understanding of the racecraft it takes to do the oval racing, and you want to give it a shot. Our truck series runs Friday nights, and it's well, I guess, tailored toward newer oval drivers. So
Yeah.
let's get our numbers up, sign up, have some fun. Get to turn left and learn, I guess, a different style of racing, and maybe some members, within the other parts of the Midwest family that you maybe wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. And for any of you guys doing the truck poll, anybody that's been here for longer than a couple seasons know that the trucks have been to Brand Hatch before. So it was fun racing. I believe the last time we were there, I think I ran in that. It was either that or the Xfinity car when we were running that out at Brands Hatch. But it's fun. You get that rear end sliding, and you get to go through the corners, and it's like it brings a whole new element to racing. So again, I just want to get on top of my soapbox here and ask everybody to kind of just step out of your comfort limits a little and kind of embrace the road side of things with this new car, because it puts on some really good road racing with wherever you can send it, and those trucks as well. I mean, I was surprised when we put them at Brands Hatch and it put on as good a show as it did. So I think that's all I got for the week, Jay. How about you?
No, just hope everybody signs up for next season of Oval, whether it's truck or cup, or get some faces from the Tuesday nights if you're interested. It can be a lot of fun. We have a long schedule, I guess 22 weeks, and we'll finalize based upon the polls. We'll finalize that schedule and get it out to everybody.
Yep. Just like I said, waiting on this poll. So at the end of the week, we should be able to put the finishing touches on the schedule and start to make that known to everybody. So Everybody, hope you all have a great week, and we will see you all next week. And in the great words of James, stay in your lane.